What is happening, guys? Welcome back to Kyle's Cars. We're here in what feels like the worst, like, storm system that I've seen since I've been in Virginia. Um, pretty, pretty rough lately. Seems like every single day the wind is howling, or it's raining, or it's both, and the power keeps getting knocked out. And now today, even there's like flood warnings in like the street that like my little road is off of, like the main road here is flooded out up the way. And I'm just really not happy with the way that they do things around here, because they had to close the road, and that's understandable. They had to close the road because it was completely flooded out around this bridge that's on my street, and but they didn't actually like leave any signs around the point where you could detour to go around where they had to close the road. They instead waited until you drove all the way to the point where it's flooded. So like probably like 4 or 5 miles down the road from like the last place you could actually turn and take a detour. Then right when you get to where the road is completely flooded out, there's a sign that says road closed. Well, no kidding. There's a river in the middle of the road. I mean, it was really bad. And then they did the same thing on another road when I left earlier. There was a tree that blew over, and it was like right out into like the middle of a pretty major little highway. It's not like an interstate. It's like a state route. It's basically like a highway. It's 4 lanes with a median, and the tree blew over into it. But they didn't say like anything about it at the last juncture that you could actually make a detour. So you're like 3 miles away from that. You drive all the way up to it, and then there's 2 cop cars with signs that say roads closed. Well, thanks, but you could have put that sign a little bit further back so that I would know. Uh, so yeah, that really sucks. But the other thing that really sucks about it is like I don't got a garage here, so everything I do is like right here in my little area. And yeah, when it's raining, I'm pretty much at a standstill, because that whole spot, this whole area kind of goes to mud, and it gets pretty wet through there. So uh, really is not good for me. Luckily, I have like other jobs I can do at like small used car lots and stuff like that. That they have a shop on site. I'm not in the wet. It's not completely preventing me from having any type of income, but it makes it hard for me to make videos. That's why I'm making a lot of streams. Like if you've noticed the last couple days, most of what I've done are streams, and it's because of this weather. I mean, it's been pretty rough. Uh, yeah, it's really raining now, and the dog isn't happy about it either. How are you, buddy? Yeah, this poor dog probably has like the worst cabin fever, because he's super playful and loves to be outside and everything, and can't really do much outside. He's also not much into being wet, so he'll go out there for a second, but if he starts getting wet in any way, he wants to come right back inside, so sucks for him. But yeah, um, so what is happening right now? So still making progress on various things. I don't want to show the hard body yet. I want to make a good video for that, but I have made some progress on the things I want to do to the hard body, which as soon as I get a good chance to do a video on it, which right now is not, if you can tell from the rain, I will do that. And what else? As you can see, the Suburban that I made a stream with, I think it was yesterday, is at the house. I got that. I've been working on. Basically, this thing is just like a little side money for me, if nothing else. It does have an LS motor in it, and I am seriously considering throwing that motor into the hard body along with the transmission because that Suburban is two-wheel drive. But I'm not sure if it's worth all the effort because that thing does not currently run and it's sat not running since like 2008. So who knows if it's even worth trying to do that with it. I might, what I might do is I might pull the motor and transmission and just look it over and decide. I mean, for as easy as it is to pull the motor and transmission out of that thing, no big deal. I actually just today had to come up with a solution to pull that motor because a normal engine hoist is great, except for when you're like in a situation like me where I don't really have like a solid floor to roll the thing on. So I thought of an interesting solution where I got a crane that you put in the back of a truck, like a pickup crane. They sell it at Harbor Freight for like $100, and it's good for like 1,000 pounds, which the that LS and transmission are not. I don't think will exceed the limits of that little truck bed crane deal. Sorry about that. Had to turn on the lights because you wouldn't see anything. Yeah, I don't think that the motor in that Suburban will exceed 1,000 pounds, so I think that little crane will work good for that. And I just have to mount it in my truck bed, which I'm kind of leery of because anytime you cut up the body of your truck, which I guess I wouldn't have to cut up the body, but I would definitely, at the very least, have to drill some holes in the back of my truck to mount this crane. Anytime you do something like that, you're kind of exposing yourself to the risk of rust. Not that Virginia is too bad for rust anyway, but I want to avoid rusting out my stuff as much as I can. So I might, my truck has like a tonneau cover anyway, so it's not too big of a risk. And but it has like the plastic bed liner in it already, so I'll probably gonna have to cut a hole in that plastic bed liner, and then drill my holes in the floor of the bed of my truck. And then what I'll have to do then, because the crane like swings in and out from the back of your truck so that you can like store it normally, and then from there you can swing it out and then hang it over what you're working on and just lift it right up. So it'll be good for more than one thing. I can load up some pretty heavy stuff into the back of my truck, other motors, like just pick it straight up off the ground, load it right up and go. And what I'll do is I'll just take the tailgate off my truck, back up to the front of the Suburban, unhook the motor, and just crank it right out of there. And then rather than having to roll a hoist across the ground, just jump in my truck and drive forward, and I should be all right. Obviously, there are some drawbacks to doing it that way, because you don't have quite as much control when you're trying to move a truck as opposed to just a regular engine hoist. So yeah, so I'm not a huge fan of doing it this way, but another thing I could do is park my truck kind of to the side of the Suburban a little bit, and then I could swing the whole crane over once I have the engine up. But I'll have to see how I want to do it. I think I'll be fine just to drive forward, especially if I have somebody standing there with me that can kind of direct me. It shouldn't be too bad. But yeah, what else do I have going on? I mean, that's really about it, honestly. I guess there are a couple other things happening. So, um, yeah, I was gonna go to the another event tonight. I've been to it before. I made a video there actually twice at Dominion for their no prep, but the way that the weather is, there's no way that that's going on tonight. But I was really, which I'm really kind of bummed out about because, I want to make at least one event video every single week. I love making those videos. I love meeting all those people, but I can't control the weather, and it would be kind of a waste of time for me to go out there with the rain the way it is. So, yeah. But anyway, I figured I'd at least put out a stream so I have something up. I will have, as soon as I have the opportunity, I will have some full quality videos coming out soon. I just need the weather to give me a break here so that I can do them. Um, and I am seriously considering getting a full on shop or renting a garage or something here because this situation I've got going on right now isn't working. I mean, it's always sucked to like work on stuff at home, but now that I'm also trying to make videos, I'm trying to make them consistently. It's just yet another reason for me to get into a shop. But the reason why I haven't rented a shop or bought a place is because being self-employed, it's extremely difficult to get financing on like property. they, they, I wouldn't say it's extremely difficult, but because I haven't been self-employed for that long, um, it's a serious uphill battle for me. They really want to see somebody that's been self-employed. If they're going to use that as income, they want to see somebody that's been self-employed for like a couple years, and I'm just not quite there yet. And plus, the other problem is trying when I did my taxes. Uh, what I did was I wrote off a lot of stuff. But when you write off stuff on your taxes when you're self-employed like that, it basically makes it look like your income was a lot lower than what it kind of was. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you buy, when you're just a sole proprietor or self-employed individual that is kind of for yourself, but it's also for your business because you are your business. But that a lot of that stuff that normally would just be like, if you were an employee of somebody, you wouldn't be able to write the stuff off, right? Like some of the stuff, because you need it just as an individual. But when you're self-employed, it works out to like everything you do is a business expense for the most part, and so like fuel and travel and all this other stuff that would normally just be like you commuting to and from work is considered a business expense now. And then just as an example, so now when you write that off, it makes your income look lower than what it really would be because like everybody has to commute to and from work. So uh, you know, so when I've been doing my quarterly taxes, I've just been following the advice of other people and of basically like QuickBooks is like set up for you to do that. Um, but you know, basically made it look like I didn't even make minimum wage for like the last year, which isn't accurate exactly. But it hurt my ability to secure a like loan for a piece of property, especially like a commercial type of property, which is what I really want. I guess that'd be like the only way to do it. So, what I am doing is instead, I'm trying to follow the advice of the loan officer that I'm working with here. He said just to like go work for somebody like at least part time to just offset that a little bit, and just take whatever kind of little job. That was his advice. I'm not following that exactly because um, if I don't make enough money, it won't be worth it, right? Because all that time that I spend at like that crap little part-time job, whatever it is time that I could be just working on my own stuff. and it would be like losing money to show up and work for them. And I already don't want to go and work for somebody else, but then to like go and take a job like that and lose money to take it isn't gonna happen. I mean, I'll just wait a little bit longer instead of doing that. But what I have done is I've looked around for like some jobs where the hours will work for me, and that are jobs that, one, are like in my wheelhouse of stuff that I like to do, and two, that pay enough to make it worth getting out of bed for it. Uh, One of the jobs, I mean, I don't want to go into too much detail on it, but one of the jobs is like a warehouse type of job where it's like overnight, and I just like sit on a forklift all night, and pays all right for what it is. It pays pretty good, I suppose. But I've definitely made more money at other jobs, but the hours work, so that's what's important. And then another job, they actually tentatively have offered me the job, but you gotta wait for like a background check and the drug test and everything. So that wouldn't start until like the 11th if everything works out. And then I'm supposed to talk to a a dealership on Monday for a job in their shop, but I'm not sure if the hours are gonna work. It's not like a car dealership. They, like I said, I don't want to give too much information, just in case, like one of these people is like out looking around, trying to look into me, and I've applied to a couple of interesting jobs, so if like they're out looking into me and they come across like my YouTube channel, I don't want them to be like, oh well, this guy's saying all this stuff about these other companies, we don't even want to give him a call. Plus, if that company sees it, they might not appreciate it. But I will say that the job is not a car dealership. It's like heavier stuff, like not really heavy equipment, but like truck type stuff. But that's like, I won't say too much more about it until I know whether or not I have it, and until I've talked to them about it. Um, but yeah, I want to know. I guess I got to talk to them and see what the hours situation is and what the pay situation is, because I haven't talked to them yet. Um, and I mean, this has been like an ongoing thing where I've been kind of just looking around, seeing what I can do, because I've known that this was going to be a thing for like a while now, that I wanted to get into a shop and whatever. I'm either like get either move into a place like a different house that has a garage or a shop right there, or rent a shop, like a commercial piece of property, or buy a shop, or buy a house with a garage or whatever. I've known that I've wanted to do something like that for a few months now, so uh, I've been kind of looking around already at like what I have to do. A few months ago, actually, I applied for a job and was offered a job with a dealer for like semi truck trailers or whatever. Um, so I won't say the company name, just out of respect for them. But basically, they sell like large trailers. Oh, look, the dog wants to come and sit with us. Um, they wanted to hire me as a mechanic, which is cool. That's like right in my wheelhouse. One of like the earliest jobs I had was hi, hi, trying to get my face. One of like my early jobs in the mechanic field. Sorry, it's hard to concentrate on what I'm saying when the dog is like sniffing and looking at me. But yeah, one of my first jobs doing this was working on heavy equipment like big trucks, trailers, pulp trucks, skidders, all that type of forestry stuff. And so I have experience working on like log trailers and chip trailers and those type of things. Um, which mechanically, like underneath those trailers, are the same as pretty much any other. So they were definitely interested in me, but the money wasn't there. Um, so yeah, like I mean, I don't want to like go into too much detail on like what those guys were paying, uh, but the first thing, like when they made the offer to me, I was like I said right to the guy sitting in the interview room, like I was like, there's no way that you expect me to come in here with my own tools, all this experience, all the education that I have in doing this, and you think you're gonna pay me like that wage? You're crazy. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. It would work out to me not, especially when you consider like the cost of tools. Like you'd be better off to go take a job at McDonald's because for what they wanted to pay. And his response was, "Well, that's where we start everybody that walks in the door." And they had like a lot of employees there, and he said before he even said that, he was saying that like half the people that were there all started in the last 6 months because they lost a lot of people. They lost like a couple of older fellows that retired, and another couple people went on to other companies. And so like half the people there all started in like like within like the probationary period. And then I thought like he must be paying all right to like have started this many people that quickly, but I also was apprehensive because I was like, well, that sounds like it's kind of a high turnover. But he had a good story about it. He said it's because people retired and like one or two people just left the company. Like if like all like I think they had like a shop that had a total of like 12 guys working in it, which is good size, but it's not a huge shop. But um, and six of them were all new, if I remember correctly. I think it was like five or six that were all new there, and you know, if they had lost six people in the last 6 months, like that just left that company and went to other places to work, that would be a huge red flag right off the bat, no matter what they pay. But he claims that it was only two that went from there to another shop, and that the rest retired. So I wasn't too worried about it. I mean, it did seem weird, but it didn't seem that bad. But then when he said what they were paying, I was like, well, I mean, I don't know where he found those other guys to work there, if like they had no experience or something. Um, but yeah, that wasn't happening for me. I won't say the exact number that they were starting everybody out at, but it was so low that there are like retail jobs that you can walk into with no experience and make more. Like for instance, like Walmart. I know like you could go and make more money walking in the door at Walmart. I was like, absolutely not. Like I am not gonna take that like at all. um, and if you're watching this far, I guess I can continue on. But there's actually on another channel. If you guys watch Chucky 2009's channel, he tells a story about one of his friends that I guess had like a job interview like right after he got out of welding school, and he graduated as like one of the top welders in the school, and so he went in to like a company to like do an interview, and the company was like, whatever company it was, all their processes were like flux welding stuff. So like if you're familiar with welding, whenever you're welding with flux is like what you're using to shield your welds, it's very smoky, and the fumes from that flux are not very good to inhale. You really like should only be using flux in situations where either you have super good ventilation or like fume extraction, or you're just straight outdoors, or both. But this place had like super low ceilings, and like they were doing flux welding in there. I don't remember if they were like stick welding or if they were using flux core welders, kind of like what my Harbor Freight welder is. But it's not important. Both situations, it's pretty smoky because that's how they shield the weld. Um, and he goes in there, and they give him like a skills test. So like that's part of his interview. Like they're like, hey, weld these things together, or whatever. And he did like super well. And the people were like, yeah, we definitely need to hire you. You're like the best person that's come through here yet, this and that. And they're like, okay, great. And so then they go on, and then they say, so uh, we start everybody out at $8.50 an hour. And the guy was super upset and left. That's kind of like how I felt. They did offer me a lot more than $8.50 an hour at the trailer place, but it still wasn't enough to be worth it to me. Um, it, like, there's just so many other things I could be doing, you know? Like, I'm not gonna sit around and sell myself short. Yeah, you know, it would be great to have that check rolling in and everything, and be able to one, like, the best thing about working for somebody else, for the most part, most people that you can work for, most companies, the best part of it is knowing, like, every single Friday you got a check coming. You know that no matter what, as long as you showed up and you punched your time card, that you've got a paycheck and you can rely on it. And you know, that's really good. Whereas, like, when you're self-employed like me, um, that's not necessarily guaranteed. You know, I could, uh, you know, every week, like, I could go like one week and make like $3,000, $10,000 in a week, whatever, depending on how busy I am. I mean, I don't think I've ever made $10,000 in a week, but because I'm pretty small time, but there's a potential for it, obviously. But I could go like one week like making $3,000 to $5,000, which, you know, is a common. That's like a common week. And then, like, something could happen, like if I got sick, or if whatever. I mean, if for whatever reason, like if I had like some catastrophic equipment failure that, like, I just could not get fixed for some reason, and I don't work for like a week, I'm gonna go from making like $3,000 to $5,000 to making nothing, and that's all on me, you know. Whereas if you're going to a job, like, they're gonna offer you sick time. So if you get sick for a couple days, you know, or a week or whatever, you got some type of check coming in anyway. Or if you're going and showing up to work, but something at work, your work breaks, like a whatever, like, you name it, whatever you do, like if you work behind a desk and your computer breaks and they don't replace it, as long as you're showing up and you're there for your 8 hours, you're gonna get paid. Now, does that mean that they're gonna, like, let you just sit there for 8 hours? No, of course not. Not if there's nothing for you to do. But most companies will know that, like, you know, they need to take care of their employee, and they'll find something for you to do. Either, you know, I mean, obviously a computer is not a good example, but you know your work. Like, for instance, I used to work at a place that did CNC lathe work for Toyota, and I think they also had a contract with Subaru for a while, and Honda and everything. Um, so I used to work there, and I used to make like suspension parts on CNC lathes. And you know, if you're familiar with any type of CNC type of machinery, they are reliable in a way. Sorry, that was a dog toy. I don't know. It probably looked weird on your end, but the dog was trying to get me to play with him, so that was. But any type of like CNC type of machinery, like computer numerical control machinery, is extremely finicky. Now, obviously, there are some that are way more reliable than others, but they all require a lot of patience and maintenance, and they'll run and make thousands and thousands of parts, no problem, but and it'll pump it out in like a shift, but then the next shift it'll be broken. And it was not uncommon for me to go in there, and the particular machine I ran was broken on the shift before me, because obviously, like, they never left that machine not running. There was 3 shifts. That thing ran 24 hours a day. They wanted somebody there to run that machine all the time, so they could pump out as much as possible. So I think, so like the machine that I ran, I actually ran a couple different machines there, but the one that I ran the most was making tie rod ends. So um, essentially, they wanted you to cut like 1,400 tie rod ends in a shift, which is pretty high, honestly, when you think about it, but not that bad. And obviously, like, the part that I didn't like put them together. Like, all I did was run the machine that just cut them. And I mean, this thing's doing them fast. I mean, 1,400. So in a shift, and it had to cut it like on, really it was like three different machines that were in my area that were all working on like the same tie rods. But regardless, like there, if any one of them was broken, then you know my I was at a standstill until it was fixed. Um, so in that situation, there was times where that thing would be broken for like a whole shift, or a whole day or a couple days, but the company would always make sure I had something to do so I could show up and get my 8 hours. So I would get like my week, and then I'd also make up for it on the back end because I'd give you extra hours over 40 to like make up for the time that the machine was down. So you end up with overtime or whatever. But I always knew that I was going to get a check. I always knew as long as I showed up, I would get my 40-hour check. But now, there's no guarantee of that. But I come out ahead in the long run because I'm making so much more money. So whatever, if I end up losing on a week, or not making anything for like a week or whatever, I'm making up for it every other week by just making just way more money in general. But yeah, banks are pretty well aware of the risks involved, like I was talking about, the risks involved with being self-employed, and that's why a lot of guys like me have trouble obtaining any type of major financing once they're self-employed, like to buy a house or to buy a piece of property. And so that's why I'm doing this, because I don't need the money by any means. Like, whatever. And to like, I don't need the money from like one of these jobs. It's just, honestly, I'll probably, no matter what I do, I'm pretty sure I'll lose a little bit of money no matter what job I take. And if I don't lose money, I'll at least lose freedom, which that's worth money to me. Worth more than money to me. So yeah, I mean, so this has gone on to like almost 33 minutes here, kind of talking to you guys. Like I said, really, if you guys have made it this far in, that's awesome. If not, I totally understand, but you didn't hear me say that because you didn't make it this far, right? But if you are not already subscribed, please consider subscribing, because if you can sit through this video and enjoy it that much, then you'll love my other videos. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Let other people know that it's worth watching. And I will see you in the next one.